Hi there and welcome to the Daily Arsenal News Show. Let's dive into today's top stories. Fabrizio Romano says £60 million Arsenal player could leave. The next few weeks will be crucial. Fabrizio Romano has now been providing an update on the future of a midfielder who could still end up leaving Arsenal in the summer. It wouldn't be a huge surprise if the likes of Thomas Partey, Nketiah and Emile Rowe left, despite their rich individual quality. That being said, Fabrizio Romano has now been providing an update on Smith Rowe's Arsenal future, a player fans would be loath to watch leave. Speaking via Caught Offside, Romano said that a final decision will be made on Smith Rowe's future after the final few months of the season. He explained, Emile Smith Rowe's future continues to be the subject of some speculation after a lack of playing time for Arsenal this season, while we also know there was interest from West Ham back in January. In terms of what will happen in the summer, I think a lot depends on these final 2 months, how much he will play and be involved, and then Arsenal will make the final decision together with the player. This is not something clear yet, so let's wait and see how the situation looks after the final stages of the season. As I said, Smith Rowe was on West Ham's list in January, but at that time he really wanted to stay at Arsenal, and also Mikel Arteta wanted to keep him. This was the clear decision of both parties. Then let's see if it changes for the summer, but there is nothing concrete to report as of now. Although no Arsenal fan will be happy to see Smith Rowe leave, he is simply not making progress right now. It's clear that Mikel Arteta loves the 23-year-old, but he simply can't find a regular spot in his team for him. And when Arsenal have sufficient time to plan the resultant moves, a departure would seem advisable for Smith Rowe once the campaign ends. Bob Wilson says he is so afraid Arsenal player's career will be over by the time he is 25. Bukayo Saka is enjoying yet another incredible season for Arsenal. The 22-year-old has scored 13 goals and contributed 8 assists in the Premier League, and that is despite arguably not being at his best for some of the campaign. Arsenal have complained about the treatment Saka gets from opponents and the lack of protection from the referees, and speaking to the Telegraph, Wilson has insisted that the England international is in serious danger of missing out on a long career. He said, what drives me demented is we have one of the best young players, and if we aren't careful, football will lose him by the time he is 24 or 25 because Bukayo Saka will have been kicked out of the game. Referees don't seem to see or understand it. There are always a minimum of 2 players within 5 yards of Saka and often a third. If they can't stop him, they kick him. People say, what do you mean? That's too dramatic. I say there has not been a more kicked player in the Premier League than Bukayo Saka. If he is facing an attacking position and he is taking them on, that is the time I worry. I really worry for Bukayo. It would definitely be a massive shame, even as a neutral, if Saka was kicked out of the game. Obviously, it's a compliment to how good he is that defenders have to revert to dirty tactics to keep him quiet, but that will be little consolation to him each time he is fouled. The good news is that Saka has been so consistent for Arsenal, both in terms of his form and his availability. It's remarkable how rarely he seems to miss out on games. Hopefully, that run continues for years to come, but it's alarming that Wilson feels that there is a question mark over that right now. David Siman doesn't want 25-year-old Arsenal playing for England this week. David Siman has shared why he doesn't want one Arsenal player starting for England against Belgium tomorrow. Arsenal have already been handed a potential significant blow ahead of their trip to Manchester City this Sunday. Bukayo Saka was withdrawn from the England squad last week after picking up a minor muscle injury. It remains unclear whether or not the 22-year-old will be ready to face City this weekend, with the Gunners currently assessing his fitness. As for Declan Rice, his display in the 1-0 defeat to Brazil on Saturday was lauded as outstanding by Gareth Southgate, but David Siman doesn't want the 25-year-old to be risked against Belgium tomorrow night due to Sunday's trip to the Etihad Stadium. Speaking on the latest episode of his podcast, the Arsenal legend explained why he wants Rice to be rested tomorrow night. He said, "I'm looking at this game and I'm just thinking I don't want Declan playing if I'm honest. He played the whole game against Brazil and this is Tuesday, and then we've got a massive game at the weekend against City. That's my Arsenal head coming into play here. He needs a rest." Rice has racked up a total of 39 appearances for Arteta's side this term, playing a total of 3,261 minutes in the process. The midfielder would certainly benefit from a week's rest ahead of what is a crucial run of games for Arsenal. He also played the full 90 minutes for England on Saturday, and you'd imagine that Arsenal fans will be keen to see him miss out at Wembley with a trip to City just a few days away. Southgate has plenty of options in the middle of the park, and he may be keen to take a look at players like Kobe Mainoo and James Maddison ahead of the Euros. Rice is usually a guaranteed starter for the Three Lions, but it wouldn't be a surprise to see him miss out on the starting 11 tomorrow night. International coach left amazed by £24 million Arsenal player in training today. The international break arguably came at the worst possible time for Mikel Arteta's Arsenal side. Arsenal had picked up 8 consecutive wins in the Premier League before a host of key players headed off to link up with their national side. The Gunners had also booked their place in the quarter-finals of the Champions League by beating Porto on penalties, but the break has arguably come at a good time for some of Arsenal's fringe players who have been struggling for minutes, including the likes of Aaron Ramsdale. The 25-year-old has managed just 6 appearances in the Premier League this season due to the arrival of David Raya, and amid the claims the Englishman is expected to leave this summer, it would appear he is enjoying a change of scenery this week. In a video on England's official YouTube channel, Ramsdale can be spotted training alongside Everton's Jordan Pickford and Crystal Palace goalkeeper Sam Johnston. The Arsenal shotstopper was involved in a range of training drills, and he produced a smart save down to his right, which impressed England's goalkeeping coach Martin Margeston. Ramsdale then took the sting out of a shot from Margeston before reclaiming the ball inside the 6-yard box. Margeston labelled the save a superb decision. Pickford is undeniably Gareth Southgate's first-choice goalkeeper for England at the moment. Ramsdale was knocking on the door after starting the season as Arsenal's number 1 between the sticks, but you'd imagine that barring any injuries, Ramsdale will have to settle for a place on the bench at this summer's Euros. This is expected to be a key driving force behind Ramsdale potentially leaving Arsenal this summer in search of regular first-team football. The £24 million has every right to feel slightly hard done by after he excelled for the Gunners last season. But to Arteta's credit, his decision to bring in Raya has been vindicated by the Spaniard's recent form. Arsenal willing to pay £77 million for an incredible attacker whose agents have already visited London Conley. Arsenal have been credited with having an interest in a number of strikers over the past few months. Ivan Toney was one of the main targets, but his name seems to be dropping down the list a touch. Victor Gyökeres is also in the frame after his form with Sporting Lisbon. Benjamin Sesko is another forward believed to be on the list. Sesko is among the cheaper options potentially available at around the £40 million mark this summer. Of course, one of the top names being linked with Arsenal is Nigerian forward Victor Osimhen. The forward's agents have reportedly already visited London Conley, and according to reports from Italy, Arsenal are willing to pay big money for the Napoli man. Napoli magazine relies information from the Italian newspaper El Mattino in saying that Osimhen is wanting out of Naples this summer. It's claimed that all three of Arsenal, PSG, and Chelsea would be willing to pay £77 million for the Nigerian forward. Osimhen has a release clause closer to £110 million, but it's suggested that Napoli's owners could accept less. Osimhen has been one of the most prolific strikers in Europe in recent years. His form even helped Napoli win the Scudetto. But there will come a time when Osimhen moves on and goes on to one of the very biggest clubs in Europe. Arsenal are right to get their name in the mix for the incredible striker. Osimhen's ability to run in behind from the number 9 position would give Arsenal a completely new dimension to their style of play. Whether or not that can offer the right package to convince club and the player remains to be seen. But if Arsenal can win the race for Osimhen, it sends a big message out to the rest of the league that they are here to stay. Arsenal have interest in forward transfer, decision to come after talks, says expert. Sporting Lisbon striker Victor Gyökeres is on Arsenal's radar this summer. Fabrizio Romano has confirmed in today's episode of Count of Sides, the Debrief podcast. Romano says further internal talks will take place at the Emirates Stadium to decide if Gyökeres will be Arsenal's main target up front this summer, but it seems the Sweden international has done enough to catch their eye along with other top clubs. Gyökeres only joined Sporting last season, arriving after impressing in the Championship with Coventry City, and although he is perhaps been a bit of a late bloomer at the very highest level, he is certainly showing his quality now. Arsenal could do with a strengthening up front in the near future, as doubts remain over Gabriel Jesus, who is perhaps too injury prone to be a reliable first choice, and Nketiah, who has seemingly fallen out of favour, even as Mikel Arteta's second choice up front, with Kai Havertz and Leandro Trossard, recently preferred in that role while Jesus was out. While it's perhaps a bit early to know for sure if Arsenal will be targeting Gyökeres, it seems Romano is aware of some interest, though he is also cautioned that it won't be an easy negotiation with Sporting, who have a release clause for the player and who perhaps intend to stick with that as their asking price. Romano said the following: Arsenal have still not decided who they will sign in the summer transfer window. They will take some time internally to discuss this. Victor Gyökeres has a release clause, and we know how tough it is to negotiate with Portuguese clubs. I don't see Sporting being flexible or open on this one. But for sure, Arsenal have an interest, as do other clubs around Europe, so I expect Gyökeres to be part of this strikers' domino in the summer. Arsenal inform agent and directors of plans to start negotiations over potential €80 million transfer. Arsenal have reportedly informed the agent of Ousmane Diomande as well as Sporting Lisbon directors of their intention to start negotiations over the potential transfer of the defender this summer. The Gunners seem keen to sign Diomande as they look to strengthen in defense, and it seems they are now moving ahead with the plans to get a deal done for the talented young Ivory Coast international. According to the latest print edition of Portuguese newspaper Record, as cited and translated by Sport Witness, Arsenal have already informed relevant figures of their intention to try negotiating for Diomande, who has a release clause of €80 million. The report notes that Chelsea have also previously shown an interest in Diomande and seem to prepare to get close to that €80 million figure by offering an initial €60 million plus add-ons, which Arsenal now seem set to match. Diomande is one of the most exciting young defensive players in the game at the moment, and a big move seems inevitable for him this summer. The 20-year-old is also linked in the report with big names like Bayern Munich and Newcastle United, so it will be interesting to see if Arsenal can get in ahead of them and Chelsea in the race for his signature. Interestingly, Mikel Arteta is already pretty well stocked in defense with the likes of Saliba, Magalhaes, while others like Ben White, Tamber, and Kivior can also play to a high standard in that position. It's not quite clear where Diomande would fit in, but there might also be some sense in Arsenal improving their squad depth for next season, as it's been an issue for them at times this term and last when key players like Saliba and Tamber have faced extended periods out of action. As we wrap up today's Arsenal news, remember to stay tuned for daily updates right here on the channel. Don't miss out on the latest updates, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a like if you found this information valuable. Your support means the world to us. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.